Hi everybody, Andrew Cuneo here. Today I'm going to try another new deck in Standard, and this deck is something that I think people are hoping to see, but I have to say it's probably not a very good idea. So I wanted to try to build a creatureless control deck in Standard, and you're kind of fighting against the grain if you're trying to do this, just because so many of the threats are so good at both producing a board presence and giving you value, you know, cards like Fable the Mirror Breaker, Wedding Announcement, that it's hard to play just a purely reactive deck like this, but I wanted to give it a try. There are a few new cards that I think maybe make this strategy make a little bit more sense. So this is what I'm going to attempt. So let's go over the new cards. Tablet of Completion. This is kind of a mana rock that eventually turns into a card drawing card. The really nice thing you can do with this card is if you play it on turn 2, you put an oil counter on it. On turn 3, you can cast Experimental Augury, Proliferate, put a second oil counter on it, and then if you have an untapped land, you can also play a 2-mana, like an additional 2-mana card, you know, Sheoldred's Edict, another new card, just a little bit of removal spell, or negate if you need to do that, or just a second Experimental Augury. Or you can also just, you know, get this to the point where it's got 5 oil counters on it, and you can draw cards off of it more quickly. Experimental Augury is another one of the new cards. I think that adding Proliferate to Anticipate is enough to make it a reasonable card because, you know, this is a Planeswalker control deck, so we've got 3 different Planeswalkers we can proliferate onto. The Wandering Emperor is adding counters to things, you know, to the tokens it's making, basically, so that's another way to proliferate. So I think that this is a reasonable card. Sheoldred's Edict's a really nice removal spell in the sense that it both hits Planeswalkers and hits creatures for 2 mana. Pretty appealing. It is just an Edict, but the fact that you can choose to Edict non-token creatures does mean that you're going to get the creature you want to kill more often than you would with just a pure Edict. 2 copies of the Filigree Sylex. In this deck, this is principally a Ratchet Bomb. I think every once in a while you could build it up to deal 10 damage just with the oil counters from the Tablet of Completion and the Sylex itself and the Experimental Auguries, but mostly this is just Ratchet Bomb, which I've always kind of liked Ratchet Bomb in control decks. And it does seem like there are a lot of decks that put a lot of 0-mana tokens into play. You know, Wedding Announcement, Fable the Mirror Breaker, all the blood tokens from Blood Tithe Harvesters. So I do think that there is reasonable value from just sacking a Filigree Sylex with 0 counters on it. I have Silver Scrutiny in my deck, which is not a new card, but it's a card that hasn't broken through a ton into Standard yet. I do think it's a really strong card drawing card. One thing that holds it back is that unlike other card drawing options, this is a really bad card when Sheoldred is in play on the opposing side, because it just becomes really painful to draw cards. But we do have some removal spells to keep Sheoldred off the board, so maybe that's not the scariest thing in the world. 1 Void Rend. I've traditionally hated this card just because I think 3 mana to destroy 1 permanent is generally a pretty bad deal, but I don't know, having 1 or 2 is kind of a catch-all. Maybe it's worth it. Another new card, Jace the Perfected Mind. This is another one that I'm not so sure about. On rate, it seems like an okay card, but the problem is if you're playing it on 3 mana, it's really not. It doesn't line up very well against the other 3-mana cards people are likely to play, whether it be Fable the Mirror Breaker, Wedding Announcement, Raffine, even like Skystrike Officer. All of those things, like the +1 ability doesn't actually shut off the opposing 3-drop. And it doesn't. If you're playing on 3 mana, you're only going to be getting up to 4 loyalty. So if they went 2-drop, 3-drop, you're not even, like, your Planeswalker's probably going to survive if you use the +1 ability, but it's not going to have enough loyalty to do anything great next turn. It would probably just -2 and die, drawing you a card. So that's really not great. I wanted to try this card, but I do think that this is a card that, although it might have been good in some versions of Standard, it just lines up really poorly against the cards I'm expecting people to play against me, but maybe it'll surprise me. Some Memory Deluge is just for more card drawing. So I've got kind of a mix of a variety of card drawing cards. And then this is another one of the new big additions, the Eternal Wanderer. This card did not look that good to me when it was spoiled, but it has done pretty well in some of the early standard results on Magic Online, primarily as like a finisher top-end card in just the mono white, kind of control decks, more, somewhere between mid-range and control. This has been their top-end, so I'm going to try it here. The mana base, a few new lands. I've got 2 Darkslick Shores and 2 Seachrome Coasts. This is definitely a deck where you're fine with your first land coming into play tapped. You really don't want your second land to come into play tapped. So Seachrome Coast and Darkslick Shores work great for that. But you also don't really want like your 4th or your 6th land to come into play tapped, which is where the Darkslick Shores and the Seachrome Coast present a real problem. Because I think you really need to play 4 Raffine's Towers to make your colored mana work. So this is a land it's going to be coming into play tapped both on turn 1 and, every latter turn in the game. So your land sequencing, you're going to get into trouble if you try to put too many Darkslick Shores and Seachrome Coasts into your deck, because you're going to have too many lands that come into play tapped on key turns later on in the game. I think you do want some, because you have the opposite problem with the Deserted Beach, Shipwreck Marsh style lands. I do think that these lands are better, though, because I think that it's easier to sequence your early land drops so that you get the, you can play a tap land on turn 1, you need an untapped land on turn 2. Turn 3, a tap land's generally going to be fine, because you're probably going to want to make another 2 mana play on turn 3 a lot of the time. But turn 4, you need an untapped land, and turn 6, you're going to want an untapped land a lot of the time. So that's why I've chosen to go with this kind of balance of tapped and variety of dual lands. There's a ton of ways you can construct a mana base in Standard now, and if you played with the deck a ton, you would probably kind of coalesce around particular sequences you want to work and adjust your balance of lands that way. But I think it's kind of hard to go too wrong as well, so I wouldn't fixate too much on the exact numbers of the various dual lands. I would say, try to achieve a balance with whatever dual lands you happen to have in your collection, but don't feel married to this exact balance. Looking at the sideboard, I don't have any new cards in the sideboard, but I do have... I have tried a variety of things, and I think this is kind of... I'm starting to focus on, what are the best cards to have in the sideboard. I think Siphon Insight pretty clearly is a very strong card if you play against another slower, blue-black deck, like maybe Grixis. Duress is also going to be nice, especially if you're playing against someone who has some counters. Sunset Revelry against more aggressive decks like Soldiers or just, any beatdown deck. And then Depopulates for where I need the cheaper sweeper, which would be decks like Soldiers. Cut Down, I think, is just a really, really good removal spell, so I definitely want 4 in my 75. And I want Negates as well, kind of in the same matchups where you're going to want Siphon Insights. But I think there's a lot of removal that you can board out in those matchups. I don't have a Pithing Needle in my deck because I do have the 4 Sheoldred's Edicts that give me pretty good answers to Planeswalkers. Also, I have the option to go up to 4 Negates. So this is where I'm at with the sideboard right now. As the format settles out more, obviously, you're going to be tweaking a card or two. But right now, these are the interactive pieces that I'm liking. So I want the option to max out on them or come close to maxing out on them post-board. All right, we're potentially going to have this turn 2 tablet into turn 3 augury plus another play plan. Although we don't have the another play part yet. Also, because I'm on the draw, having Experimental Augury for Negate on Fable the Mirror Breaker is not going to work, because it will already be in play. So this, yeah, there we go. Let's see if we can find a black now. Alright. I'm going to cut this down to slow down their ramping. And another oil counter for me. You can see this is a hand where the Seachrome Coast is probably going to be a little bit awkward. And I could play it next turn and just not add an oil counter to the Tablet of Completion. I think it's going to depend on what they're doing. I guess now that I drew untapped land for next turn, there's no tension. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to just -2 the Wandering Emperor on the Goblin Shaman. And I'm doing this way because one of the things I'm concerned about is what happens if they have Make Disappear. And so I might... I gotta not trust the auto tapper when I have Tablet of Completion in play, because I didn't really want to tap it there. Anyway, I was trying to bait out Make Disappear. Like, Invoke Despair is obviously a problem. I don't even have an answer to it, so there's not a ton of... There's not really anything I could do about that. I'm going to go for artifacts, enchantments, and graveyards. Or not artifacts because of the tablet. I'll leave them in the treasure. But I wanted to go for graveyards. They pitched the Corpse Appraiser earlier, so they need food for their Corpse Appraiser to work. So I'll keep those shut off if I can. Abrade my Tablet of Completion. Rude. So I am going to need to draw a card drawing card. Keep up with what's going on here. It's not a card drawing card, but it is a good card. They probably have Make Disappear in their deck. I think the weird thing that's going on here is they've got Raffine's Towers, indicating that they have some form of white card. Again, the auto tapper did me kind of dirty there. I don't really need this Plains untapped. That's not what I wanted to see on their side of the board. So I'm falling further and further behind because so many of their cards are 2-for-1s. And I haven't gotten any card drawing going on. And they also... I had to kill a Blood Tithe Harvester, or I chose to, so they got to draw a card off the Corpse Appraiser, which is annoying. I think I'm just going to Takenuma back my Wandering Emperor. Oh, I exiled graveyards. Alright, that didn't go so hot. I think I was going to lose even if that had worked, but I forgot I'd exiled graveyards. Let's try to play a game where I don't fall so far behind. I think this is a matchup where I want Siphon Insight and Negates. Maybe I don't know if I want Duress or not. Let's figure that out. I don't think I need all these cut downs. I think I'm just going to play Sheoldred's Edicts and go for the throat. Don't think Filigree Sylex is very good. I don't think I need all these farewells. So that makes room for one Duress. I'm probably going to be in a rough shape with this configuration if they manage to resolve a Fable of the Mirror Breaker, especially on turn 3. And I'm pretty good at preventing it with 4 Negates, Duress, Syncopate. Maybe I should just cut both Farewells and just play all the Duresses. Let's try it like this. Come on, land that allows me to cast this. Nope. I'm gonna leave up Negate. Rather than playing Duress. It's a disaster if I Duress in there and they just have 2 Fable and Mirror Breakers. And I'm going to start siphoning Insight. Because even if just hitting a land will fix my colored mana situation. Bankbuster, that is an annoying card. Maybe I should have an additional Void Rend in my deck over Sheoldred's Edict just because of the Bankbusters. I think I'm just going to take the land. I really want an additional colored mana this turn. So the Bankbuster is certainly going to be good for them, but I do have these 2 Siphon Insights. I've got a lot of stuff to let me keep up with the Bankbuster. And horrible Duress artwork. I'm still going to take it, but man, you could do a lot better than that. Neither one of these cards is particularly good. I guess Corpse Reviver is better for me. I can't channel this, both because you can't channel it from exile, and also because I don't have any other way to make red mana. Do I need another colored mana? I think the answer is no. I think I'm going to go with Duress them, and then if I can take the Disdainful Stroke, I'm just going to Silver Scrutiny for 4. Alright, starting to look pretty good. I'm going to take some damage from a Bankbuster. That's fine. Next turn I can play Eternal Wanderer and plus it on this token. And then they'll get the Sheoldred's Edict it, and I'm just going to let that happen because they have 2 Sheoldred's Edicts. I'm just going to have to work my way through them. Similar to these Bankbusters.
Try to verse me, if you can.
Plussing the Eternal Wanderer on opposing Reckoner Bankbusters does not seem like a good idea. They come back into play with 3 counters on them, I believe. Knew that was going to happen. It's fine. really hoping I win this game. I think if I don't win this game, it's a really bad sign for this deck. No interest in proliferating onto their stuff. I am playing into a wide variety of things by playing this here. Didn't really want to take 4 damage. Worst thing is probably if they have Invoked Despair, which wouldn't be that surprising. I made them discard 1, but they've seen a lot of cards, and they probably have 4 in their deck. Okay. That was kind of a best possible scenario. Do I want a Silver Scrutiny for more than 3? I don't think so. I'll just play this and we'll start greasing it up. Getting it ready to go to work. I'm taking a fair amount of damage by trying to play in such a way that... No. Oh, okay, fine. I was worried it was going to tap my Tablet of Completion, even though it can't yet. I was going to say I'm playing in such a way that I am taking a pretty substantial amount of damage to try to make the Corpse Appraiser a viable card. What do I want to do? Should I Sheoldred's Edict them now? Yeah, I think so. Probably just going to sack this Bankbuster is the only annoying thing. Maybe they'll sack the Corpse Appraiser. I think they made the right decision. I was hoping they would do something different, though. Could easily have Mick disappear, which would make me sad. But I think I need to spend my mana. I don't trust the auto tapper. So we're doing this manually. It's pretty likely I'm dead. Got 3 cards in hand.
I'll help any way I can. We can win this together.
If I get to untap, I think I'll be winning, but I think that's not very likely to happen. I'm starting to feel like it's a little more likely to happen. Alright, so I have to block the Corpse Appraiser to not die. I'm going to go down to 2. I'm dead to invoke Despair. Not completely dead to Sheoldred, but I'm probably dead to it. I thought I was going to at least hit something that would get the Sheoldred off the board. It failed. I failed again. I'm dead. Well, that was not a strong showing. That last match was definitely showed the problem of trying to play like I am. It's so hard to outgrind a deck like the Grixis deck, especially when they have Bankbusters. I mean, it kind of demonstrated that probably Reckoner Bankbuster is just a better card than Tablet of Completion. An aggressive red deck. Never a very good hand for facing off against an aggressive red deck. Surely my 6 drops will save me. I'm going to take 4, go to 12. Maybe I can draw Sheoldred's Edict. We'll do something. I think I'm just going to have to let these hit me. Go to 8. Try to syncopate whatever they do. I'm certainly going to syncopate that. Okay. Going down to 4, and then I can 0 this and go to 2. That doesn't seem like a way to win. Maybe if their hand is literally all lands.
I fight for the entire multiverse. Keep your eyes sharp.
Destroyed. Alright, in this matchup, we obviously want Cut Down. I think we want Depopulate. And Sunset Revelry. Probably Void Rend. Farewell is, I think, too expensive. Filigree Sylex actually seems fine. Probably don't want... The Tablet of Completion is probably kind of too miserable. I don't need a ton of card advantage against them. I'm just going to rely on my Planeswalkers to win the game by sitting in play. So what else don't we need? Negate is probably not a good one. Alright, let's try it like that. Slightly awkward collection of lands here. I definitely want to lead on a tapped blue land, because if I draw an untapped land, I get to cast Experimental Augury. Or also I can cast Sheoldred's Edict. This actually looks like a game where I might have a chance. Okay. I'm just going to Edict that. Would deal a lot of damage to me if I don't get it off the board. Sacks a non-token creature. Every time I play this card, I'm worried that I'm going to misclick. It's a tense card in that regard. Alright, I might Eiganjo this turn. Could also just play an Experimental Augury and hope to find Depopulate and or Wandering Emperor. I think that's what I would prefer to do. If I play the Eiganjo, it makes a lot of like my good draws into bad draws. Or if I Eiganjo, it makes a lot of my good draws into bad draws because I no longer have access to double white mana. So there's no way I can get enough cards out of my hand to draw cards, so we're just doing this. Yikes. So am I all in on finding Depopulate? Let's see if we're going to find it. This is one of the spots where Sheoldred's Edict really isn't that good. I need to help their creatures out. Double block, take 9, go to 6, play this, die, chump chump, take 5, go to 10, hope to draw Depopulate. Or I could chump once and hope to draw Wandering Emperor. Minus on that. I think I'm probably going to lose if my top card isn't Depopulate. Spoiler, it wasn't. Can I even live through this attack? I Eiganjo that with the trigger on the stack. I go to 1. Well, I'll get to play another turn, but only if they have nothing, which they probably don't have nothing. I don't know why they played their land before playing Reckless Impulse, but it's not going to matter. The Swift Spear kills me. I assume they're going to cast it. Did you have fun in that match? Not really. Oh wait, I misclick. Alright, one more match of this so you guys can revel in my suffering. I think one thing I did definitely learn from that last match at least is the Eternal Wanderer is not very good against aggressive decks, was my impression. Like, I didn't do anything to help it out, but if your 6-mana Planeswalker, like, the turn you play it, doesn't even do very much for you, that's a pretty big problem. Guess I'll start with the Sylex. In case there's some sort of like black-green infect deck, I guess. Seems like they're actually just some sort of black beatdown deck, maybe? A little bit confused with what they've got going on. Maybe I'll be able to shock and amaze them by Filigree Sylexing for 2 this turn. Come on, put all your mana into that Misery Shadow. really just spend it all. Right, that's not it all. Alright. One more. I've done it. I've gotten them. Surprise. I think I'm gonna go for a -1 to block. Does that make sense now that they pre-combated a Misery Shadow? I'm not sure it makes sense now. Can do it anyway though.
Anyone who harms my people must con guards to me. Keep watch for intruders.
Well, proliferating onto the Filigree Sylex was definitely the high point of this attempted control deck so far. Everything else has been kind of bad. Wasn't going to block anyway.
I guess that's it then.
Guess I need a removal spell. That Mirex is actually a little bit scary. Okay, it's kind of good for me that that was their play. I'm just going to go with creatures. I think I want to leave graveyards intact just because I have the Jaces in my deck and they probably don't have anything that interacts with just regular creatures in their graveyard. Main phase Mirex. Pretty good for an intimidation factor. Should probably just cut it down. And then waiting to see if they play something better. If they had something better, they would have played it last turn. Alright, the Tablet of Completion is ready. Ready to take over the game. Question is my deck capable of even beating Mirex? I think it probably is, just because I think if I get a Planeswalker to stick and play, it's going to overpower the Mirex. But we do need to get this Planeswalker to stick and play, and obviously they've got removal spells in their hand. Oh, I can't go for the throat. It hits an artifact creature. Nice. This is not sorcery speed. This opponent is aggressive in their desire to use their Mirex in their main phase. I know that this also is not sorcery speed, but I might want to play a land. I think I do not want to play a land now. Because I think I want to save my Otawara for protecting my Wandering Emperor. I will proliferate on the Tablet of Completion. Let's keep charging it up so that I can -10 the other Filigree Sylex that's in my deck. Right. Exile all creatures. Get them out of here. So one way I can try to win the game is just to try to mill them out.
Kapaz, Imasahak. Become subdued.
So it would be like 18 plus 15 cards, 33 cards right now, which that's not quite enough. Should I respond? Oh, I can't respond. This doesn't give me mana yet anyway. Not even sure it would have been good to respond there. So now this is 21 cards. This would be 15.
I will all your hopes and dreams.
Kind of a deck where it's just mono black. Invoke Despair. So far, I haven't seen any obliterators, which is a little odd given that it's a mono black deck. Maybe this opponent is not a fan of the obliterator.
I'll take note of all your failures. Organic minds are easily quelled.
So next turn, this would be minus 18, which I think is going to be good enough. Oh, actually, it's not. That thing's going to kill me now. We can get out of this, though. This game probably would have been substantially harder if my opponent had decided to play the whole thing at sorcery speed.
Confident? You're just underwhelming. My judgment is final.
Yet again, I didn't get to charge up my tablet just because I refused to play carefully with it.
In time, I pull one thread, and your entire mind unravels.
Our swords will cross again. Let your blade do the talking.
Probably should have started with that. I don't think it's going to matter, though. Sheoldred, sure. Not if I could do anything about it. Yeah. I don't know why I'm stopping this, but I wanted to cast my spell. They obviously are going to have more removal spells in their hand. It's pretty unlikely they're going to kill me in their upkeep, though. So mono black is the good matchup for my deck. Good to know. What? Depopulates. I think they had Invoke Despair. They must have had some reason to be mono black, right? They had Invoke Despairs. As cool as Filigree Sylex was that last game, it probably actually is not very good. Void Rend can kill Graveyard Trespasser, that's nice. You can sometimes cut down Misery Shadow, but it's not reliable. I think I'm just going to do it like this. Did they have Tenacious Underdogs? Man, milling your opponent out game 1 is great. You get all the intel. I see no Tenacious Underdogs. That's a little weird. I mean, I can see believing Misery Shadow is a better card than Tenacious Underdog. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, but I could see where someone might believe it. But it's weird that you don't also have Tenacious Underdog. Anyway, I'm not going to worry about the graveyards. So I'm not going to have the Hearse in my deck. Or the additional Farewell, I think. So like I said at the start, I don't think this is a particularly viable deck in Standard. I do think that it's probably pretty good against the like mono white or heavy white based control decks, which are pretty popular. So maybe there's with a few tweaks to be a little bit better against Grixis somehow, you could get to a deck that might be more reasonable to play. I wonder if I should have had Sunset Revelry in my deck. This is the only creature that seems to be really particularly great at blocking. It's like a non-token creature. Let's try not to screw this up. I wonder why they took Negate. They must have Invoke Despair in their hand. Yet again, they really should not play at Sorcery Speed. I would have 100% edicted the Skull Dweller. Even though I knew that they had something that they didn't want me to negate, it wasn't at all clear that it wasn't just an Invoke Despair. It's Misery Shadow. I'm going to be dying pretty fast here. Misery Shadow does hit really hard. Come on, depopulate. Yeah, that'll work too.
Feel the energy of battle, then guide it with water. This is what you get for hurting my people.
Alright, are we finally going to get paid off for playing Silver Scrutiny? Next turn, Scrutiny for 5. Please don't duress me. Oh, that's even worse. Oh, that's not fair. I knew this was a problem when I put Silver Scrutiny in my deck, but it's really not fair. Please attack me. I think I need to... I think I'm going to lose if I don't find Negate here. Or Syncopate. I do it for 3. I go to 5. I find a counter for that. I jump. Yeah, I think that's the best I can do. What if I do it for 3, I go to 5, I find a card that kills Sheoldred? Yeah. I'll live that way as well. Alright, I'm going to negate the Invoke Despair. And then I'm going to kill the Sheoldred. I might upkeep. After jumping. I should attack here. Just because I'm dead if I don't have an instant speed removal spell, so it doesn't really matter keeping this thing untapped. That was a real emotional roller coaster. Thinking I was going to just run away with the game with Silver Scrutiny and then thinking it was going to be awful, and then it actually worked out okay. I dealt 6 damage to myself, which wasn't my favorite thing to ever have happen.
May your blade strike true.
This is Sheoldred number 3. I do kind of like the way my opponent has constructed their deck in the sense that they're not playing Obliterators and they're just playing more Sheoldreds. Like, that's the 3rd Sheoldred they're playing, and we haven't seen an Obliterator yet. I think that Sheoldred's just a much better card than Obliterator, so that makes sense. Like, if they maybe had 2 Obliterators in addition, that would make sense to me, but I think it's pretty clearly right to just play Sheoldreds before Obliterators. Alright, so I'm not dead to a top decked Invoke Despair. I would go to 1. I'm not dead to a top decked Sheoldred, although I would probably lose very quickly.
We've got the edge in this fight. Got new moves to teach you.
Is there a reason to hold lands in my hand? They could have Liliana of the Veil in their deck. And I think I'm at a point where I'm not scared of that. So I'll just keep playing lands because of Memory Deluge and Silver Scrutiny. Alright, I'm at 1. I have 10 cards in the art, I have 14. I can put them to 8. I think the Eternal Wanderer is better here. If I had more cards left in my deck that countered Invoke Despairs, I might have taken the card drawing card, but I think I only have 1 Syncopate left, so it's not even like I'm digging to anything that keeps me safer. That kills me, I believe. Maybe I was supposed to exile graveyards at some point. I think that it wouldn't have mattered because I killed the Sheoldred after that. Alright. That was kind of sad. Oh, what Sunset Revelry on the play? I don't think so. Bilious Sewer Dweller. That is a card. I'm just going to let this continue to hit me for a while. I'll eventually depopulate, clean it up. Like probably this turn after they play something. Sure. Void Rend's also nice against the ward on the Flesh Gorger because you just don't have to pay. Soaring's pretty annoying. I guess I need to kill it. I can't let it just sit and play forever. This is the way my deck works. And if I'm gonna kill it, I should do it right away. Yeah. I'd like to live in a world where Memory Deluge was a good card, but it really is not very impressive when you compare it to Invoke Despair. Oh no, they're going to get my Memory Deluge. I don't like that. I did not enjoy that. That was a pretty good draw, though.
Try to burst me, if you can.
I think that I want the option of
We can win this
channeling
together.
this or cycling this, so I'm not going to make a land drop this turn. They have creatures down here. They have 2. And I'm not completely dead, but I'm virtually dead. Another great, not great showing for the Eternal Wanderer. I'm sure this card's a lot better if you're getting to cast it when you have some board presence, which is the way that the mono-white decks are playing it, but it really doesn't do very much in the spot where you don't have any board and your opponent has like 1 creature. You just put it into play and then you die. Speaking of putting something into play and dying, I'll give myself another proliferate counter. Or another poison counter, and then I'll just die to the creatures. Alright, so that was kind of sad. But it's not really that different from what I was expecting going in. So, thanks everybody for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my suffering through an hour of playing that deck. See you next time.